Hello, Tom McGuire. I just want to take a few minutes just to do a quick review of the book Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. So Atul Gawande's also written Being Mortal, which is a book that I've been meaning to read for a little while. I intend to do that one at some point. That one kind of addresses end-of-life decisions and things. He is an American surgeon, also a writer and public health researcher. And I was reading on Wikipedia that on June the 20th, 2018, he was named the CEO of healthcare venture Haven, owned by Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan Chase. Those big names that we've heard plenty of times before. And he stepped down as CEO in May 2020. So just a little bit of a blurb there, just to give you a bit of background. Apparently, he's also chairman of something called Lifebox. So it's a non-profit that works on reducing deaths in surgery globally. And he talks a lot about that in this book. He talks a lot about how deaths can be reduced by having proper checklists, and this is the thing that he's really passionate about in this book. He says that half of deaths in the operating room are down to human error, and this is just completely unacceptable. He started to look at other industries such as construction and the aviation industry, where there's very little in the way of kind of catastrophes, and statistics on accidents in both those industries are really, really impressive. And he kind of makes the point that it comes down to these obsessive use of proper checklists, so we know generally the pilots have checklists. I fly light aircraft myself. I know how important it is that, no matter how confident you get, you are going through a checklist the entire time, because your mind just isn't capable of keeping all that information there. You need to be able to concentrate on other things. So to have a checklist in place is just really good practice. And at the end of the book, which is actually my favorite part of the book, he talks about Sully Sullenberger, who landed on the Hudson in New York. He had engine failure at whatever it was, not long after takeoff, and they had bird strikes on both engines. And he managed to keep a cool head. His co-pilot was very experienced as well. They'd gone through all the checklists. They were very, very professional. And because they took their job so seriously and didn't mess around, they managed to save the lives of all the people on board, which is absolutely fantastic. That's my favourite part of the book. But there are some other bits that in the book that are quite interesting as well. He starts off talking about a girl who very nearly drowned and who was pulled out of the water and resuscitated. And, it was at the stage where they just thought that she had absolutely certainly died. So the fact that she came back from that was really quite miraculous. So that was something that was quite new to me. He talks about how teams in surgeries quite often don't really know what the surgeon is going to do. The surgeon kind of runs the show. There's that old kind of macho machismo kind of thing going on where the surgeon's in charge and they just know what to do, so everyone else needs to run around. Actually, he makes the point that it needs to be a proper team where people are empowered to question if they have any concerns. And obviously good practice is someone who's further down the pecking order who might say, sorry, hang on a second, I'm not comfortable with that, what's happening? People need to be able to feel comfortable to question people in authority, and that's absolutely the case. He talks about one of the things that happened to him in surgery where he nearly killed someone. He actually cut through their vena cava, I think it was, he said. And they were practically they were bleeding to death, but he just about managed to stem the flow and bring the guy back. And was just completely grateful. He sort of says how much of a mistake it was. So yeah, not my absolute favourite book that I've read recently, but it still managed to hold my attention. It still managed to have some really interesting points. It's definitely worthwhile giving it a read or a listen. I listened to the audiobook for this one. Narration was really good. It was nice and pacey. There's nothing particularly exciting in there, like I say, and if you've read this sort of book before, there's nothing massively original, but it's definitely worth a bit of your time for sure. Thanks very much as usual. Keep liking and subscribing. I look forward to speaking again soon. Cheers.